For plebs, by plebs, dropping the Bitcoin-only signal. Pleb Underground. Welcome everyone to the Pleb Underground.
Pleb Underground, episode 60. Welcome back for your next fix. T, up new questions and answers. Here's a bar with no dancers. Look to the sky, but I'm not Carl Sagan. No praise for the stars. No, I'm not a pagan. I'm not a saint. A little like Frisco. I've been training heavy, so I'm light on this flow. I make all the connections just like Cisco. You're a keyboard warrior, write a disco. Off in your minds like Moria. Slight, can't hiss though. Next, she's coming to family lunch. One shot, no mixer, just scramble a bunch. She is the spook, but I've got a hunch. She's mashable and likes the tech. Crunch up the freshly baked buns. You know I can't forsake puns. Create a nebula where you make suns. Couple laps around the lake. Runs upstream like data. Raise higher. Elevator. She might be shorter, but no pedestal. Or else she'll short you when her head is full. Some of these shows got fireside chats. Talked all the points to death. My two sats chalked around each of their carcasses. Couple meditations. You know who Marcus is? Veni Vici. She likes when I talk, even a little preachy. Never miss a beat. No, I'm not a Vici. Never miss a rep. Nah, she's extra peachy. Not 6 feet under. I'm 7 inches deep. She keeps me up. It pinches sleep. Pumping hard. Next year a leap. Up late last night. Lights on. Caught a peep. Bear markets where we bill it, get some clients and then bill it. Bitcoinize the world, orange pill it. My girl's got a G, spot order, so I fill it. Price is pumping, is this a bull market? My girl can't drive, but I like where she park it. Country family where we walk the dog. Art of Bitcoin, we talk the frog. Physical art, nothing on a screen. We got man here. Out here spending green, spending sats. Crypto kitties, these are Bitcoin cats, blazing green like baseball bats, woven in like Satvik sats. Bitcoin is confusing, nah, it's hypnotizing. My bushi's amusing while I'm supersizing. Still rolling with papers, I give her the raw. Show me your papers, send you to war. She calls me her witty man, she's on the hook, but I'm not PT Pan. Look in the deal, she's never growing older. Captain at the wheel, always growing bolder. I make the jokes, I spread the mirth. KYC jelly, you know I got girth. This ain't 9/11, not a blow up trick. She loves the tower, she likes it thick. Sometimes I scroll, what did BTC? There's more to life than BTC. Gotta win in life, can't get beat easy. Shout out the calendar, I couldn't BTC. With Bitcoin and self-custody, you ain't gotta worry. Use custodial anything and you'll end up sorry. Don't be like Elon, you can't let the doge in. We let the dogs out. We got Rogan. Bring the fire through the showers. We got triple elite stars. I got Jedi-like powers. Not only Mars can spit bars.
Every week, Walton, we learn a little bit more about you. That was an absolutely awesome rhyme. And guys, if you didn't understand, joining us today, we've got part/some of the TEM crew. That's right. We've got Rojan Kim, we've got Mars Spitz Bars, and Jedi joining us. Guys, thank you very much for joining us on Pleb Underground. It's absolutely awesome to have you.
Dude, I'm
Thanks
pumped.
for having us. Thank you.
And
Thanks
thanks a
get
lot
very
for
spicy.
inviting us on the show. We appreciate it, guys.
Absolutely.
I mean, there aren't many shows that would have you guys on, let's be honest.
That's
And
true.
Why is that?
Starting with the
Probably
controversy
because they're
right away,
sponsored
Walton?
by corporate Bitcoin, and corporate Bitcoin, you know, try to censor speech. But we'll come back to this in a little bit. Phil, what are what do the numbers look like this week?
That's right, Walton. We are moving on over to the numbers.
The numbers brought to us by Time Chain Stats and Time Chain Calendar, and now sponsored by BTC Pins.
The numbers are brought to you by BTC Pins, the newest sponsor of Pleb Underground. Check them out at btcpins.com and use the code PlebUnderground for 5% off all the awesome pins and accessories. Here's my pin collection. That's right. I like to show it off. And of course, you know which one's my favorite. I already told you guys. Anyways, high quality pins, beautiful stuff. btcpins.com. Check them out. At the time of this recording, the block height is 814,100. The Bitcoin fiat exchange, 33,671. Moscow time, 2969. Total public lightning capacity, 5,436.0. Fastest fee, 31 sats per V-byte, Days to the halvening, 180. And the chain rewrite days, guys, 732. Those are the numbers. Those are the numbers. Very interesting week. Walton, your thoughts on this?
Change of background.
I'm doing it.
But
Okay,
actually,
so now I changed my background. Now, what are your thoughts on the numbers? Okay, it's done.
the price started pumping. Of course.
Did we have a god candle?
Just after, like, I spent some. Like, that's how it works, right? Like, so you're welcome for the sacrifice.
That's how it
yeah.
works. All right, guys. TEM.
Me and a buddy want to, like, try and push self custody in the UK, and there aren't enough, like, people here, and so we're gonna be official reseller of it. People gotta, there's not enough self custody solutions, and you gotta help people find better ones.
This is true. This is a very good point. And actually, you know what? Speaking of self custody, we've got a message brought to you by BTC Delica, which is take your corn off of exchanges. It's the right thing to do.
I swear he stole that message from Branchler, I swear
of course he stole the message.
Like,
and guys, we're gonna put some...
everyone says it, right? But Tarantula post that meme with the guy on the horse, right?
Drain the exchange,
We're going to put some links, by the way, in the show notes for people to, for self-custody. So if they want to learn more about self-custodying their Bitcoin, we're going to put some links in the show notes. So guys, TEM, what are your thoughts? Did we experience a god candle this week? I know some people said yes. We saw some polls on Twitter where people were trying to figure out what the fiat price was of a god candle. What are your thoughts? We'll start with Rojan.
No. I don't.
That's
well,
great, man.
The thing is, I think after
right.
No. Well, listen, bear market, right? Everybody's exhausted. We've been just beating each other up. People have been, at each other's throats for months. Like, it's just, and then the price pumps and everybody's like, the bull market's back. But I think if you look at Bitcoin's past, this isn't out of the ordinary in a bull market cycle, right? And I think God Candle to me implies it's just ridiculous euphoria, which we've seen in past cycles. So I know it's hard for me to be like, this is it, this is the one, Yeah, especially given where we at, Yeah.
It's level-headed.
Phil, can you enable screen sharing?
Yes, I will enable the screen sharing. All right, Mars, what are your thoughts on this? God candle, yes, no?
Not really. No, not yet. That's not a god candle. We got better ahead, don't we? I like what Rojan was saying about how, like, being in the deep bear, maybe in a sense it's a god candle because it was the relief we might have needed. But nah, we got bigger candles ahead.
I agree. This is a perception thing. All right, Walton, what are you pulling up here for us? Well, actually, here, before we talk about this, Jedi, your thoughts on the God candle. Are you with Rojan and Mars? Or are you thinking that was the first God candle of many?
I think the silence speaks volumes.
Sorry about that. Yeah, the screen popped up and it changed everything for me. Yeah, I think that was.
These are my thoughts, right? The bull market doesn't start till we get back to 58K, and quite a few people on Bitcoin Twitter seem to agree with me.
All right,
I would say that's the end of the bear market. Actually, I think 58K.
This is definitely not a god candle. This is just a relief candle. It seems like the traders needed something. They, the fake news, pumped out concerning the ETF earlier in the week from was it CoinDesk?
Mm-hmm.
So that was internal leak. That was done apparently, right? So that set some of it off, and then I think when Larry Fink, kind of verified that people are going to look for places to go as capital flight, and that Bitcoin and is one of those places. Gave it a little more validity in the larger market, so that kind of made some of the boomer energy come in and create some of that pump on, like, just let's say a little higher of a retail level than just your normal pleb stacking. And then there's always the pleb stacking. So
based. That was a good take.
What happened was there was a huge buildup of something they call open interest, which I understand essentially is just like money on options, right? Like it's people are trying to, whether it's options or whether it's like it's essentially like they're trying to make a leverage play on the price movement of Bitcoin, but with Bitcoin you can't. I think maybe for other things as well, like you can't kind of hide the volume of kind of the shorts, if that makes sense, right? You can't or the and so when enough of it builds up, Bitcoin whales are actually well positioned and incentives aligned for them to spot buy a large amount, because they can wipe out these people shorting. The price goes, and then or rather, they don't necessarily wipe them out. The price just goes up, and then they have to sell Bitcoin to kind of hold their position or whatever it is. Like there's various movements that cause, essentially,
they had to buy a lot of
Bitcoin to
Bitcoin
get
right
wiped
now
out.
to
A
cover.
whale can just buy on the pump and then sell at the top, and so you get these like BART movements, right? Or you get like a spike and then down again. These are just whales taking advantage of people getting
squeezing.
greedy. It happens. It always happens.
Definitely
It's a
what I like is the take of there's a bunch of bots that BlackRock has on the market, and they're buying every minute. I saw that take. I was like, ooh, that's an interesting take. So kind of like that one.
Yeah, it's the same thing
They
that happened
definitely
to
do.
GameStop, right? Back in 2021 or whatever. One of those short squeezes. And for me, the big thing, like I didn't look into the narrative of the ETF after I read that the QSIP was generated for it. To me, that's significant. And like it's only a matter of time. And once I heard that, it's like, all right, well, we should hear something, within a few months, probably much faster, but it's different now. There's a QSIP generated. That's a big deal, in my opinion. I'm excited.
Yeah, I absolutely. I mean, look, it definitely brings attention to the space. I know that there's obviously mixed feelings, right, as to what it really entails, right? A lot of people, let's be honest, it's paper Bitcoin. It's, to a certain extent, right? They're making an ETF. You're going to be able to buy shares. It's just financialization. So there's that aspect of it as well, right? So it's a double-edged sword. It's a double-edged sword. But look,
I would say, Phil,
Just keep advocating against it. That's all. As much as we can for the normal pleb, right?
There's going to be an ETF, no matter what. It's inevitable.
That's
we
right.
might as well accept it.
Yeah.
And let our bags get pumped as a result. We shouldn't bitch about it when it happens, because it was going to happen.
Yes.
So it's a great opportunity for people to learn about Bitcoin, if it's going to happen anywhere. I love it. Let's do it.
I would just recommend for plebs that, actually stack Bitcoin, they should stay away from the ETFs. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think should be all involved in it. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. There's a huge lesson, to be learned from gold and what happened to the gold and the gold ETF, and just what happens when they turned it into paper.
Silver also. Anyways,
right.
we're gonna turn our attention to our first article here for the numbers. Here we go. So this is a tweet shared by Walton. This is from @Rothmus, interesting account. And here we go. I do agree with this, because I've actually thought about this a lot, especially because being a Gen Xer, having this is like a childhood movie from my childhood. So yeah, like Home Alone is definitely holds a special place. So here we go. The craziest part of Home Alone was that Kevin got all those groceries for $19. Okay. And I think that's very, very significant, because another piece to it is this, right? If you look at the house he lives in, and his parents are paying for everybody to go on, I want you to really think about how loaded the McAllisters were, right? It just goes to show you what the buying power was in 1990. When did that movie come out? 91 or something?
Right, that's it. Yeah. That house would have been maybe it might have been under $1 million in the mid 90s, but now it's probably $5 million or something, or right.
It's just $3 to $5 million depending on the area.
Houses have done something I don't know. 6x at least over the last 30 years.
If you kind of look through the bag, you can see nothing but toilet paper rolls and paper towels in there, though. It's funny because he's
It's
just
pretty bad.
acting right on the set. It's great.
But you guys have seen like old, like, I don't know, McDonald's menus or whatever, and it's like nothing, everything's less than $1 or.
Dude, I remember the dollar menu. Do you guys remember the dollar menu back in high school? We used to go eat
Oh,
for
yeah.
like $3 at Taco Bell. It was great.
And then you remember the joke where you say you take a girl out, you take her through the drive-through, and she can get any 2 things off the menu, but not 3. And it was offered,
Yeah.
In Canada,
How well did that work, Jedi?
at least 25 years old.
That's a strange answer.
So in Canada, there was a time, I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was these specials where you would get hamburgers for 25 cents and cheeseburgers for 35 cents. I don't know if you guys ever had that promotion, but think about that. Like that, don't get me wrong, I don't even want to think about what was in those burgers at that time, but they can't do that today. Can't even come close.
Well, that just goes to show you how absurd pricing things in fiat is. And even though we intellectually know that they print the money, we're still like, this house used to be under $1 million and now it's like 6 million, and we're like, wow, that's amazing. But it's still, that's how absurd it is. We know on some intellectual level, but it's just hard for us to internalize. We still price everything in dollars, right? Like the number going up.
Look at the Big Mac chart, and that will clue them in. They should just have that come up on
price
their
of a Big
screen
Mac,
when you go through the drive-through.
That's on time chain stats. Yeah.
So before the
he does have that
pandemic,
there. It's great. Shout out TC.
No, that's and time chain stats. TC does time chain calendar. Both are excellent. You should check them both out.
Mars, what were you gonna say?
I was going to say, anecdotally, I used to be able to get 2 sausage McMuffins with egg in the morning for $4.33, and this was in 2019, and now it's like $11 at the McDonald's I go to. It's terrible.
It's the greedy corporation. All right, it's just McDonald's.
Exactly.
They're just so greedy right now.
Yeah, they're
All the
just driving up
greedy
profits
at the same time.
I'm hearing Psycho Train right now.
Huh?
Psycho Train in the room.
Oh god. Well, /S. Obviously, I'm messing around, but like, yes, exactly, right. Like it's total ridiculousness, right? They all just do it in unison. They all got greedy together at the same time, and in the same wave. It just happens like that. Of course.
and then they go, let's print more money.
Of course.
Oh god. All right. You know what? Let's move on to the last piece here for numbers. Let's take a look. That's right, guys. We're going to make fun of the people waiting for the numbers that are never coming. Okay. So yeah, it's a tweet from Dennis Dennis 58K, and yeah, we should have had him on the show for the 58th episode. That was our bad.
Yes,
We'll have the one for the
I'm sorry,
158.
Dennis. I even contacted him months in advance and was like, dude, we need to have you on like early October for episode 58. He's like, yeah, just reach out to me the time. And then we suddenly got around to it. It's like we had Evan on or something. I was like, oh, I'm not moving him now. Like, well,
It's okay. We had Evan, which was awesome. And
It
you know
was.
We
what?
are the train.
Zeus Pay was announced first on Pleb Underground.
That's right. So let's take a look at this tweet. Keep 12K aside. That's right, guys. And he is retweeting Rookie XBT. Keep 12K aside so you can acquire 1 more Bitcoin in 3 months for the sake of the industry, but importantly, for the sake of your family. Ugh. Yeah, that guy's not gonna have that legend meme for him. That is absolutely wrecked. So look, I always like, what's up, Jedi?
He's not going to make it.
No, he's definitely not going to make it. And I always like to remind people of the last cycle, okay, where people were calling the 1700 bottom. Okay, we were at 3,500. People were like, well, from 3,500 we go down to 27, and from 27 the next floor is 17. And so you had all of these major, huge accounts that were touting the 1700. We're gonna get there. It's inevitable.
Tone vase.
He knows, and Mars knows. So we never got there because look, when things are bad, they never look like they're going to get better, right? And when things are good, it's never as good as it seems. So the reality is that if you didn't listen, you stacked all the way down and you didn't get burned. Okay, so if you're sitting here and you're waiting for 12K on the sidelines, I mean, it's not financial advice, but I do think that you're going to get burned. I think it's not good. I don't think we see 12K in the next 3 months. And you know what? That we'll see. You know, I personally don't give a shit because I'm stacking either way, but I'm just saying I just don't see 12K.
Okay, Phil, if you had two options, if the two options are DCA the money with Swan, Ripple Bitcoin only, whatever they're called now, or just sit on the sidelines with it, what do you think you should do?
Walton, what are you doing?
No, we asked the tough questions here on PlebUnderground.
Those are the tough questions.
How dare you besmirch Swan?
I mean, look, you're kind of...
I like how tough a decision this is.
It is, because I can't answer that.
It is.
You kidding me?
Let him sleep on.
Obviously, you want to stack.
With the premium membership, you're invited to the Swan Indigo room, right? Where things happen.
Leave me alone, Uncle Terrence.
What if they gave you the password to the secret sex party?
There's no evidence of the secret sex party. Excuse me. We need to cut that. Cut that now, Phil. There's no sex going on at Swan, Phil.
No, isn't it? That's the Fortress people. Isn't it like, what's his name? Scott or something?
Who? Scott Purcell.
Scott Purcell.
Scott Purcell, yes. And then it turns out his wife runs a kind of
swingers party.
Thank you, swingers party. I was trying to remember what it was. I'm like,
nice.
Is it a house of ill repute? I'm like, no, it's a swingers party. Oh, something just fell. There you go. All right. And that wraps up the numbers. And we are going to move it on over to the Fireside Chat. The Fireside Chat is brought to you by CypherSafe. Check them out at CypherSafe.io. You need to store your seed in something that is indestructible. Check out the Cypher Grid. It also comes with an awesome little punch tool. That's CypherSafe.io. Get yourself the Cypher Grid. Check out the Bitcoin Rouleau Triangle. It's 16 ounces of solid titanium, beautiful Bitcoin art made by a fellow Bitcoiner for Bitcoiners. It is the Bitcoin Rouleau Triangle by CypherSafe.io. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Fireside Chat, and that's right, guys. Joining us is some of the TEM meme crew. So guys, you know what? This is something I've definitely wanted to ask you for a while, and it is the origins, right? I definitely want to know the origins of before we get into the juicy stuff, right? The origins of the meme crew. So I don't know which one.
It was around a similar time that me and Jedi were in something called Meme Pool. I'm pretty sure it was almost like a fork of but I'm sure Jedi can speak on this.
So who wants to run down the history?
It was how it started was we were just on Twitter Spaces, right? And we were just a group of people that, because there wasn't very many of us, right? And as far as Bitcoin Twitter goes, we gathered together. And
when you say us, what do you mean by us? I'm sorry. I
can name some people in Twitter.
Not individuals, but is it just like
early members?
Yeah, the early members, some of the founding members were myself and Rojan was there, and Rad Philosopher, and
I remember Rad.
Mars has been around.
Shill Scale there early
the days.
No, I'm not OG.
But he's been around since the early days. Shill Scale was the reason why. What ended up happening is there was a person on Twitter, Log Scale, that was coordinating spaces, right? And we found out that he was getting sponsored by Twitter to do the spaces, and we just were living by this ethos of we're keeping a decentralized kind of space. We didn't want people intermingling into our space with us.
This guy was getting paid like $2,500 a month or something, and he had to do. I think the contract was like 30. You got to do two 30-minute spaces, or at least two 30-minute spaces every week. So it's only like 4 hours a month or so. It was not like much. But he was then getting other people to produce the content, not paying them, like creating these schedules where they're posting those out. But other people were creating shows, and he was just getting
And
paid
then
by
brag
crypto,
about not
doing
having to
anything.
do
He
anything
was
to do it.
sleeping.
He would be sleeping and stuff. Yeah, essentially.
I
So
remember this.
essentially, Shill Scale started making a parody account of him and opened up a Twitter Spaces at the same time he was doing his, and it was a troll, right? And then I was friends with Shill, and like so were many of us. And one day we all just decided to spit out parody profiles of him, of Log Scale, in order to like kind of like drown out his signal, because we knew that it just was, now it was getting, he was taking sponsorships from Swan and other people that were, even if it was lightly shilling their links or whatever, it was starting to happen, let's just say. And we wanted to like we noticed that he started to like not give space to the OGs and Twitter, and start to give parental treatment to what we consider influencers in the space, which are which quite a
Mike
large amount
Alfred
of them
type
are
characters,
considered
right?
grifters. They're grifters in the space, and they're actually working, is our point. Like, if you're working, we want to know, just tell us, all right? And we're more likely to just converse with you. But if you act like you're just hanging out with us and then you're part of something larger, how do you think it's gonna fare with anyone?
You're not a pleb, then. You're part of corporate Bitcoin. Like, to me, there are two defining features of being a pleb. One is that you save in Bitcoin, right? And the second is that you don't misrepresent who you are, and they're failing on number two there for sure.
Yeah, we keep it pleb as much as we can. So that what we did was we essentially got, he broke down and cried on Twitter and then left. And that broke down at least some of the chain of like the influencers' route to actually getting to noobs, right? Which were that's their bread and butter. So we started memeing, right? I started coordinating with Rescale, who was making some memes, as he made a series of memes that were based on Avengers and the Thanos storyline. And I coordinated with him doing the design, coordinating characters with names and people in Bitcoin, and enemies of Bitcoin or villains, in the way that we positioned it. And we just started doing some work, and we noticed that we were actually doing something and contributing to the space in a way that we were trying to do the simple thing of clear space for noobs to come in and learn about Bitcoin without getting fleeced. And that is just our ethos, or my ethos, because Triple Elite Memes is truly a decentralized group of people. That's 50 plus so people with all kinds of support from all kinds of plebs and friends that just like what we do, because we just seek the truth, and we just want that. And we're exposing things like what's going on at Swan, what's going on which is connected to Fortress Trust and the Prime Trust scandals. Just to touch base, lightly on that was what we do. We come together on these common theme of truth, right? And why we're, again, we're Bitcoiners, because the ledger of Bitcoin is a ledger of truth. We're truth seekers in general. So we want to raise up the community to the same levels how we think toxicity really is. It isn't us trolling people and being mean to folks, although that's the way it happens sometimes. And it actually, like, it helps. And I think that, we bring value to the space, and we want to keep doing that.
Jedi, that was absolutely an awesome rundown, and I really appreciate you explaining it like that. And to your point, right? I just want to remind, like some people who have come to the space a little bit later, like back in 2017, especially, right? Like there was this kind of first iteration of everybody just taking spoon-fed bullshit messaging from large accounts and influencers, right? Simfluencers, whatever you want to call them, and the reality is that like the first kind of rejection of that was the, like the taco plebs, right? Like that's pretty much how that type of stuff back then started. And then lo and behold, within a couple of years, a lot of those people who were originally kind of standing up for, pleb, kind of like pleb content, pleb messaging and stuff like that, were all of a sudden becoming part of the, the thing that they were fighting against. So it's kind of interesting to bring it back to TEM that, you guys kind of like went full circle, and, you're kind of, it's like, it's starting again, like where people have to like wake up and pay attention. Like, look, you're getting paid messaging. Like that's what that is. And you're getting paid messaging by corporations that stand to benefit greatly from you buying, specifically buying Bitcoin, not from anyone, not for you, but from them specifically. Doesn't like
Yes,
they don't
there's
really
a
give a
sales
shit that
funnel.
you're stacking. They just
Yes.
care that you're their customer.
And
There's a
Phil,
sales funnel, and it runs up, all the way to simply Bitcoin and other places. It's just point blank the truth. And it goes all the way down to El Salvador, and the connection between what's going on there with Max Kaiser, what's going on with Bukele, the links with Corey Klippstein, and everything that happens with Swan, Fortress, and Prime, and their connection now at El Zante Capital, right? And this
Can I-
leads to larger
say
real
something about
estate
that real quick?
scams, right? And go ahead, brother.
Yes. So before we get too far past Phil's point about paid messaging, I want to maybe try to go into a little bit of detail there. In my opinion and how I see things, it's not paid messaging in the traditional form of advertising where you are receiving income from a variety of advertisers, a well-rounded advertisers. What I'm specifically worried about, and what we in TEM think is going on, is that there are companies in the space that are hired to push specific narratives, that they aren't a news organization, but more in reality, a PR machine, a marketing organization who sells their influence to the highest bidder.
Right, like one of the supposed kind of objective Bitcoin news things is owned by Samsung, right? Like, and Samsung wants to like go around the world selling Tether t-shirts and pushing state adoption of Bitcoin, right?
Walton, and the funny thing about Samsung and Swan is that for the first few years, it didn't look like Samsung ever made it on Swan content. And then all of a sudden, 2 or 3 months ago, when Swan admits that they're able to 15x their marketing budget, right around that same time, Samson Mouse starts popping up on that YouTube account at swan.com or YouTube/Swan. And all of a sudden they start doing Samson Mouse stuff. And all of a sudden they start talking about multi-asset settlement on the Liquid network. They start doing long form podcasts with Sam Callahan on it. They start doing all this stuff. What changed? I don't get it. Why did you not care to cover Samson Mo for years? And now he's all over your page.
It was like Samson and Max at some point both followed me, and they quickly unfollowed after me and Magoo were criticizing the volcano bonds and saying they were never going to happen, and that like it's a way for like, it was basically a way, the concept is for like Bitfinex to like, I guess, you could say launder money, right? Is there such thing as money laundering? Bitfinex would basically accept like all sorts of money from all over the world, and it wasn't available to US investors, but it was all getting like pushed to the US. It was a really bizarre, and then it still hasn't come out, right? These bonds. It was just a hype story to get people excited about El Salvador, right?
Well, and so I've been asking Max if he's hired Swan and Samson, if they've hired Swan for as their marketing services or PR or whatever you want to call it, and they don't say no. And I'm wondering why.
Max is like a longtime shitcoin grifter, and he's shitcoining right now. So it's
right. Like, one week it's pushing Tether Gold, and the other week it's Bitcoin only. This is like it's ridiculous, and it's a whole bunch of orange washing. And the problem is, okay, right? The problem is, right? Let's be honest, okay? People
just don't build their own conviction. And the reality is that they essentially, like, they eat this fucking stuff up from the hopium dealers like
They
there's no
want a
tomorrow.
leader. They
right?
want a
Like,
leader.
and it's so easy to follow. It's super, you're right? It's super easy to follow. And the problem is this too, right? Like, the other thing is that people don't like to be othered. Okay, I know what it's like to be othered. I know that a lot of other people know what it's like. And the truth of the matter is that when you're othered, nobody amplifies your signal anymore. Nobody even likes your tweets. Nobody even, like, nobody wants to spread you. Even if your content is good signal, even if it's truthful, okay, even if it's honest, right? It doesn't matter because you're not part of the circle jerk. And until you're part of the circle jerk, your signal doesn't exist.
Yeah, and here's the evidence. My follower account is less than 3,000 on Twitter. All we do is pretty much just speak the truth about, and tweeting, and making memes.
So what I would say is that after Lauren of Light and Aussie spread a rumor over multiple weeks that I personally doxed Aussie, I saw it in total abandonment of all plebs to my account, except for Triple Elite memes. I mean, for a year, and I could only get TEM guys and occasional people that were still around, maybe a handful of people. And it was because, and I've had multiple people come to me that over a year after when Lauren of Light did that and said, you know what, I just found out you didn't dox her. You didn't actually dox her. So yes, people get othered, and maybe it's brought on to some extent. In my case, I get it, but it's a problem. It's disappointing. It's a disappointing feature, characteristic of the space. I wish we could just, I don't know.
Well,
is having a Swan ref link in your bio the Bitcoin equivalent of having pronouns in your bio?
At this point,
yes.
It's just, what makes it very frustrating is because Bitcoiners, right, as an ethos, we talk about, verify, don't trust, and, we talk about being critical thinkers, and all this stuff. But then at the same time, right, critical thinking, but at the same time, here I am in the circle jerk, right? Like but so then you're not critically thinking, right? It's like that's not happening, So it's I don't mean you personally. I'm just saying, like, person in general, and it's like. That to me is what's very frustrating. It's people don't really care to actually amplify or validate any signal that because it may go against someone else that they see is more important. So I can't like that.
I don't think it's that. It's more like you got to just be. You got to be on the collective Hopium team because all of our we all own equity in all the exchanges and stuff, guys. So actually, we need you to keep buying because actually we don't even care if if you do well or not. We need to get those exchange fees, and so yeah, guys, Bitcoin's great, but not because actually we want people to adopt Bitcoin or want to acquire it in a KYC free way, or like you just want the cut.
They just want your money.
Or a cut of the cut.
That's all it is. They just want your money, man.
Just want those.
This is why we don't take exchange money. This is why we don't take custodian money. This is why we don't take shitcoiner money, because incentives do not align.
And let's not forget the KYC data.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
And your silence. And that's what I've been observing, because like I come at the problem from just like a social dynamic perspective. And it has been amazing what Swan has been able to do with such little effort. I mean, free conference tickets will silence a pleb for life. And I'm serious. And that's what happens. And we've heard that. We've heard that in spaces. We've heard plebs get giddy with joy when they realized it's a VIP ticket and not a normal Swan Bitcoin conference ticket.
Mars, I got some random person on Twitter donated me 2 whale tickets for the Miami conference this year. And me and Phil went and sat on the beanbags during the Wizard debate, and in every single gap, I shouted "fuck shitcoins" as loud as I possibly could. And every time the Wizards talk, the suits sitting on the sofas next to us clap along like they're like NPCs. Like it's all like VCs and oil wankers, and like you just there's the unfortunately
cult members,
squares.
The marketing kind of things attract marketing kind of people. And there's
Yeah.
more marketing kind of people in shitcoin space, and because again, it's about incentives. You haven't got a real product, you better be good at marketing.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
a marketing maxi now. That's what TEM's doing now. You know, we're getting into the game, getting into
triple
the
elite
social
marketing.
game.
So,
Mhm.
so I was gonna say, because I mean, don't get me wrong, we could probably stay on this this segment the entire show, but
I have one more question, actually.
go ahead.
If
Go ahead, Rogan.
Okay, yeah, if I could just say something.
Absolutely.
I personally have a very different experience with entering TEM than Mars and Jedi do, because I didn't really. I was more of a lurker back during all that time they were talking about. And for me, I guess my entry point is really meeting these guys in Miami and getting this sweet shirt from David at Represent. What? So, you know,
Shout out David
once I
X.
met these guys in person and we just hung out in a house and we partied, and I realized, oh, these guys are exactly the same in person as they are on Spaces. They're not LARPs, right? And they're actually cool guys to hang out with. And then it just, you know, fast forward, we did that a couple more times. We even had an MMA fight. You know, a couple of our guys, Woody and Amish, you know, had an MMA fight where they squashed some Twitter beef in real life, you know. And then so every iteration of meeting these guys in person, I realized, you know, these are some solid guys, you know what I mean? And so for me, my experience is more like through real life and meet space, meeting these guys who I hear on Spaces, because for me, you know, it's still the internet, you know. Twitter Spaces is still the internet, so it's not really real on some level. And then when you meet someone face to face and all of that, you realize, okay, there's something real going on. And I think that's what's cool to me about being in a group. I mean, to me, it's like both tongue in cheek and not, right? To be like, we're in a meme gang, right? To be like, we're really in meme. You know, I like to think, you know, nothing strikes more fear in the heart of men or dries up more pussies than saying you're in a meme gang. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, you know what I mean? Like,
But what do you mean, sir?
Because, you know, it's just like meme. What are memes? They're silly internet cartoons, right? And you're like a gang making cartoons on the internet, you know, like, so I can be self-aware and say, like, you know, that's silly. But at the same time, we have both a lot of fun, and there's some real serious stuff we're doing, right? And going after some serious people. And even when I say we, it's hard for me to say all of us, right? Because we are a decentralized group. I mean, literally just by me being on this show, there's going to be people in TEM who will now accuse me of being an influencer or some kind of, you know what I mean? Like, and that's fine. I expect that, and that's the way it is. You know what I mean? And like, just to even
I
just
think
saying,
we should start asking these people, like, what do I influence you on? If you think I'm an influencer, like,
Yeah,
what
exactly.
have
What
I
are you
influenced
influencing
you
them
to
on?
do
Twitter
or to think?
dojo.
exactly.
Ah,
They're
yeah.
basically admitting
Literally
to just
have
like
that.
cucking to
Influence
your thoughts. If
maxi.
that's what they want to do, they can do that.
So much of it is, go ahead.
dude. Well, oh yeah, I think for me,
We're
it's
not
just
influencing plebs, we're influencing influencers. That's
yeah,
the
we just want for me, I like the laughs. I like the I think there's a lot of laughs that we get. And you know, to me, I'm being a comedian, that's like my favorite thing. I mean, I came into Bitcoin because it was literally like, who are the funniest people? Like, and Bitcoin was the funniest. And then that's how I actually learned more and more about Bitcoin. Like, why is it funny? And I realized it's truth-based, right? And then even inside of Bitcoin, you're like, who are the funniest people there? You know, and I think that's what led me to TEM. Is just,
it's funny you say that, because I feel I came into Bitcoin.
That's
The
a
first
big
kind of
thing.
group of people that I mixed with were the memers, and then I mixed with, I don't know, the, like, you know, Bitcoin kind of philosopher types, and then they're kind of economics types people, and then the devs. And then I come back to the memers, because actually the highest signals with the memers, right? Like what is it? An image can be 1,000 words or something like that. Like, I don't
Well,
know.
and
It's
also,
also
like,
memes are social
memers
currency,
don't.
right?
I mean, there are some corporate type memers, but like in general, memers, you know, they say what they think. Yeah, and like, that's kind of a core part, right? They're not misrepresenting who they are. They're usually poking at something else.
yeah. And so I like to say, you know, that a lot of meme gangs are just like memers in a gang, but TEM is a bunch of gangsters who meme, right? And I think that's pretty much what separates us from, and that causes a lot of internal strife. It causes a lot of it because we have a lot of strong personalities. You can imagine, you know, we have a lot of people who have their ideas of what this is, you know.
Some people say the Triple Elite meme says forks more times than BSV. Like, can you guys comment on that?
I mean, you know, people say a lot of things, you know. Some people say a man is a woman.
People have come
you know
and gone.
Do you think that's a soy
during
thought?
this
Do you
time?
think?
You know, but most of the, you know, we have
conspiracy.
Wooderson and Vader Scale and, you know, and Cosmos, and some of these guys are all still around. You know, we haven't lost many. You know?
And what I would say to Soy is, if you founded TEM, why did you never once name your space TEM anything? It was always decentralized space with Soy and REKT.
That's right.
Because when I came in, I'm not an OG, but when I came in like right after the log scale, actually, I mean, I watched it from the outside, and then I found these boys, and then I just joined spaces in the morning, the decentralized space with Soy and REKT, and hop on stage because
I think that's when I hung out with all of you guys, like, and then because I'd host spaces later on in the day.
Yes, and I would go on stages other places, and I would get frustrated and booted, and you know, that's probably expected, I guess. But like to Jedi's point, I think by the time I even came onto Twitter, I had gotten to a point with Bitcoin where it is intellectually curious to me, but I'm not techie. I'm not in the granular stuff that like changes with Bitcoin. I approach it from a high level principle, and that's it. So like,
do you run your own node?
What's that?
Do you run your own node?
I do.
I got 2 nodes,
got a Raspberry Pi.
There you go.
Sitting next to my shotgun.
I got one. It's on again, off again, but I have one.
Yeah,
That's it.
I don't look at it, but I run it. I downloaded it 2 years ago, the blockchain. It took like a week, whatever. Yeah, I do that stuff, you know, and I do the self-custody and all of that. But my point on Twitter, I spend time on Twitter not to learn about Bitcoin. I spend time on Twitter to get to know Bitcoiners because I was bored about talking about Bitcoin by myself, or bored because I didn't have any like-minded people. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, the space is great.
You get to sharpen your social skills around Bitcoin. You know, I learned to be a better speaker, you know, through being on Twitter Spaces for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Gave me more confidence to get out there and, you know, and battle people in real life, and like an extended form of debate that gets to like where there's no holds barred. That's really kind of the public sphere, the public space, the pub, right?
Yeah.
Has moved into Twitter Spaces.
But you have to not be afraid of being wrong, because like, I'm wrong all the time on Twitter, and like I just had to get used to it. You can't hide it. You can't block. Like, don't act like those fools, those, you know, those people with hidden motives, those operators in the space. Just like, it's just so much easier just to be wrong and move on.
Mars, I think those people are kind of corporate type people who need to actually go through some ego death, right? We had I organized this episode. It's like almost a year ago. It's like just before Christmas last year. We had Eric Kaysen and Fractal and Krypton. We talked psychedelics. It was called a holiday trip. And
that was a good episode.
What I want to know from you guys is like why does the best acid in the world come from Bitcoiners that you meet at Bitcoin events? Like why is that the case? Can anyone explain this phenomenon to me?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are others here who could speak much better than I could, but from my experience, it's the same thing about why they're the funniest, right? It's the same thing. It's just truth. It's just like, you know what I mean? So it's signal. It's just signal, and whatever that is, you end up finding those people. They're like-minded, and that's the crazy thing about spaces and Bitcoiners. It's people from around the world that you have these like-minded thoughts with, and you realize, oh, I'm not the crazy person, right? Like maybe in your immediate sphere, you're the crazy guy thinking these crazy thoughts, but then you realize, no, I'm not alone. You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with drugs. You know, drugs is the same. It's like good drugs, heads know each other, right? Good acid heads know acid heads, you know, like, and you just spread the signal.
Yeah, it's definitely much easier to get orange pilled if you've been, you know, red pilled first. And it just opens your mind to the possibilities much easier of, you know, of larger concepts. You can, it allows you to zoom out a little more because you can look at things from a different angle, a different light.
It's so weird though, like how these kind of things are intertwined with Bitcoin. Like you have many people's like first touch with Bitcoin was either directly or indirectly, you know, through their buddies with Silk Road back in the day, right? And maybe with hallucinogens. And it's kind of funny how there is this like, are you?
Yeah, they're directly connected.
Bitcoin
I mean,
because
Silk,
you were open-minded, and that's why you're taking the drugs, or did you get into do you see something like the kind of the?
I'm a Silk Road Bitcoiner. I started using Bitcoin because of Silk Road.
Yeah, he's another medium of exchange guy.
Well, yeah, I had buddies that did, right? It's
right.
It's either I think most people did. There's a lot of, you know, it's like if
a lot of us,
like if people smoke weed, like they often like Bitcoin, or like if it, you know, there's these overlaps because there's like these people like that are kind of anti-authority, and that are open to different ways of doing things.
There's a lot of us that just like to get ripped, that want to have nothing to do with violence. And Bitcoin was the perfect answer to reduce friction. You know, like plain and simple. Like for me, that's what it was. This thing reduces friction and makes my life easier.
Bitcoin and lube is all you need.
It was the tool that they didn't have available yet. And during the 60s psychedelic revolution is really honestly what it was. You know,
have you ever
had to catch up?
Have you ever gotten like really stoned and then watch TV and then realize how ridiculous the commercials are?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like how absurd these commercials, and you realize, oh, they're just pitching and just telling lies. You know what I mean? And you just, so I feel like there's something to that. It's, you know, it's like the phrase, the worm is turned, right? It's just, you get to peer behind the veil a little bit and see that, oh my God, you know, and I think that opens you up. It's just like the allegory of the cave, right? It just opens you up to the sunlight a bit. And then you can kind of make the steps to go toward it or away from it.
Well, here's another link to psychedelics in the, you know, in the cypherpunks was that John Perry Barlow, who was the, you know, he was part of the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and he wrote the manifesto for them, right? Was also the lyricist for the Grateful Dead. Okay. He wrote the lyrics for Bob Weir, who was Jerry Garcia's, you know, rhythm guitar player and cohort in the band. And so there's a direct connection there because Owsley, who is the Grateful Dead chemist, was the sound man for Grateful Dead, right? The guy who actually formed the Grateful Dead, hand selected the members in order to help create the psychedelic revolution, essentially, is what it was, right? So it was although, you know, it spun out to be what it was initially like designed from people in the psychedelic realm. So this is, you know, the tenets that cypherpunks followed were these, you know, privacy in the digital space, right?
Yeah.
Which was the declaration that that nobody has the right to control cyberspace, right? And so, you know, he was one of the first ones to do it. So there's a, you know, a deep rabbit hole connection, you know, I think, and possibly like Satoshi would have had to have been very familiar who John was. You know, there's a greater than not chance, right? So Satoshi could have used psychedelics. I feel like he almost would have had to, unless he was just that brilliant on his own. To put some of these connections together, I feel like psychedelics opens you to that possibility.
I think that's absolutely true. I mean, that's been, you know, that's been my experience, and meditation. To be honest, meditation, breathing exercises, you can definitely induce certain mental states that will allow you to see things in a different, you know, in a different way than you're experiencing them. But guys, I'm super
talking
sorry.
Of mental states, Phil. Can we have a look at people that got wrecked this week? What do you think?
Nice segue.
Guys. Yeah, this
and
has
one
been
more
an
thing.
absolutely...
All those guys, you know, Hal Finney and those guys live South Bay, and so did John Perry Barlow, and they were, you know, all this shit was happening in the Bay Area too. And I know people think he's, you know, who knows, right? There's some connections there. Somebody knows something.
Somebody definitely knows something. And guys, this wraps up the totally crazy Fireside Chat segment, and we are moving on to REKT. REKT is brought to you by CryptoCloaks. Check them out at CryptoCloaks.com. Use the code PlebUnderground for 5% off awesome 3D prints made by Bitcoiners like Astronaut Dude. Or you can store an open dime, 2 open dimes actually, in the amazing, super popular 3D printed grenade. You can get the bigger one and fit a full signing device. That is CryptoCloaks.com. Use the code PlebUnderground for 5% off. Use it. All right, guys, let's dive into it. We've got some REKT. So first on REKT, Will Clemente. That's right. So tweets from BTC over fiat. Will Clemente won't see this because he blocked me. And essentially, yeah, you guys can see the tweets right here. So here's Will responding back to Raoul Pal, who is a very well-known crypto grifter who has wrecked a whole lot of noobs. And here we go. What an effing joke. This dude is supposedly running a professional fund charging people $800. Keep in mind, this is Will, right? Shitting on Raoul. To hear him shill shitcoins he discovered from anonymous accounts on Twitter. How pathetic. Buy and hold Bitcoin is the way. But sadly, Raoul can profit from encouraging this. And we fast forward to 2022. This is a year after. And here's a tweet from Will. Excited to announce the launch of Reflexivity Research, an institutional grade research firm co-founded alongside Pump and Inflection Points. Our mission is to help traditional finance think about investing their trillions of dollars into BTC and digital assets. That's right, shitcoins. And
yeah,
guys, he's charging. He's charging
Chart
more.
Boys are the biggest pumpers of Hopium, and so therefore they're the best affiliate marketers of exchanges and derivative products, etc., etc. Because people are going to buy stuff because they get excited, like following these guys. The guy's obviously, you know, he was just like, well, I'm going to pump the numbers and I'm going to try and do whatever. Like he looked up to clearly Pomp and that sort of person. Well, one thing I am intrigued by is though his price may be nominally more, but what was the expansion of the money supply in that time period?
He's making
Did
less.
it go up by a quarter? It might have done. I don't know.
He's making less. He's definitely making less.
Definitely is.
Also, Pump probably taking like at least half of that.
Has such bad signal that even shitcoiners realize it now.
Yeah,
you know,
that's a very good point.
Even like I feel like even boomer new Bitcoiners are realizing, hey, this guy he's just a marketing scheme, right? The guy probably can't even leave the Cayman Islands at this point. Who knows?
He's one of those accounts, right? That like I watched rise from nothing and like just became a total freaking grifter. You know, like
midwit shit. Look, there's always. It's like, why is there so much shit music? Well, it's because there's a whole bunch of midwits and they lap up shit music. Why is there a whole bunch of shit culture? Oh, they lap it all up. The same kind of thing with influencers. Why are there loads of shit influencers? Because there's loads of midwits and they like to outsource their critical thinking, and they like to. I don't know. Yeah, it's just bullshit, right?
He opines with an accent inside of a cigar pool bar. That's his house. You know what I mean? And it's his flex, right?
It's just British Hollywood with more hair. Like, what do you want?
And talk about Ethereum. It's time to buy some more Ethereum, isn't it? Maybe other few select shitcoins. Who are those? He's signaling to the shitcoiners to come. Hey, it's time for them to come pay their marketing fees to him. Like what shitcoin should I be talking about next week?
I've seen him do that too, right? I've seen him do that also. What do you guys want to hear about? Like, fuck off. All right. Speaking of shitcoin, speaking of REKT, let's move on to the next one. We got a pretty funny video here. All right. This is an awesome retweet from Hodl Tarantula. If you don't follow Hodl Tarantula, you should follow Hodl Tarantula. He's a great pleb, very knowledgeable mining dude. This is actually one of the real people.
You can follow him. That guy's all over the place, man. Good luck following him.
Yeah, but still,
don't ask him if he's packing.
I once asked him that, and he said no, but that he had, and then paused and said 18 firearms in nearby properties. I'm like, what does that even mean, dude?
Let's dive into this. Let's dive into this tweet. So here, this is a retweet from Strawby. Sorry, this part of Tate's NFT rant is hilarious, and I have to admit, I'm not a fan of Tate. Okay, like to each their own, but this is awesome. And yeah, definitely. In case you didn't guess it, this is. It's for all the NFT bag holders, right? Like you're freaking REKT, and even this guy who doesn't know shit about that can see that.
3 million for a JPEG.
People can just copy and save the JPEG. No, but my JPEG's the real one. It's on the blockchain. Look on the blockchain. If you go to etherscan.com, bro, what planet are you on? Nobody gives a fuck about Etherscan, checking the blockchain. Even if I proved, after all, that I owned that picture, guess who would care? No one. Only nerds. It was a circle jerk of nerds. 3 million for a JPEG.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, but that is just absolutely amazing. And he is right. You know, and I'm not saying that because I mean obviously
he's
I'm a nerd.
comedian as well.
He's just pissed off the
Along with
incels
being
were
a
handing money to different
boy
scammers
scammer,
than
he's
him,
also a
rather
comedian.
Rather than the incels handing him money and supposedly talking to girls, the incels were buying NFTs instead. That's why he's pissed about it.
Could be. Jedi, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
I said not only is he a lover boy scammer, he's also a comedian. You know, he's working on his stand up for this tour coming up.
But you have to admit, right? He hit the nail on the head. Rojan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it is what it is. I was just imagining him yelling that to like his webcam girls. Like that's who's there's like a group of them there, and they got into NFTs, and you're just yelling at him about it. I mean, it's kind of like we were talking. I mean, it was in the original premise of making fun of NFTs, right? Right. So you could just copy paste it. Like, who cares? I have your JPEG now.
That
like,
was in a live stream
to
to his university. That was a live stream feed that everybody gets depending upon your tiered membership. You know.
Yeah.
Not everybody, but you know.
Yeah,
No,
it
I
seemed
love
like
that
somebody
in
who
it for the
just found
$2,
out some
you know.
like. Oh, it just sounded like he just found this out. Like, you know, he just found this out, and he's like, "What? Like, what do you say? You could just copy paste it? Like, what are you talking about?" Like, he's like, "Yeah, bro. Like, that's what's wrong with him."
Yes, that's amazing. You know what? I do like that clip though, and that's
Right?
the second take clip I've seen in like the last couple of weeks that I've been impressed with. So I'm a little Tate curious, to be honest. I'm gonna give him a second
Yeah,
chance. See where
I
it
think
goes.
Tate's a little curious,
right,
though, to be
yeah.
honest.
What's that?
I said I think
Oh, he
Tate's a little
gay?
curious, to be honest, though. Like,
I don't know. It's
each
just
to their own.
he's morally bankrupt, so
Yeah.
it's really hard to want to get to learn about him too much.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly. Like
Maybe.
he's got some base takes, but at the end of the day, it's like, holy crap, what a shell. It's too
What
bad.
if we were psyoped?
Exactly.
What if
That's true
all,
too. Could be psyoped, you know. So speaking of psyops, I definitely want your guys' take on this. This is the last piece of REKT here. All right, guys. Obviously, I don't like to show this account because Laura Shin, and this is why this was chosen for REKT, because she is a REKT influencer talking about what I believe is probably the next shoe to fall. Binance experiences temporary issues affecting crypto withdrawals. Funds are SAFU, of course, according to Binance CEO. And obviously, guys, this goes to our mantra of, yeah, take your Bitcoin off exchanges. But, you know, since you guys follow along in the space, right, as much as I do, we're here every single day. We're looking at this every single day. So this is like the third or fourth time now we've seen some temporary withdrawal problems at Binance. And I mean, I've obviously said on this show, like in clips, that I don't know how much longer he can keep this charade going, but apparently he can. What are your guys' thoughts? You know, like, are we being too hard? Is it possible? Can CZ survive this bear market? He's made it through the last two.
It depends on whether he's continued to be backed on some level by the state of China, nation of China.
His
That's
ability
you
to
know.
shuttle risk around is pretty
Mhm.
uncanny, right? So
Whatever
even
they
How
want
long
to
can
do
he keep
with
this
them.
up? Forever,
Well,
Laura. Forever. That's how long he could keep this up. How long can it keep
that
going?
sounds like
Forever,
an
Laura.
advert for Cialis.
Forever.
That's awesome, dude. That's a good point too, right? He
There's
could
this
keep
thing
it
called
up.
Bitcoin, right? And it's going to go up forever. You should sell your house, your family, everything. Buy more
Hey, that's the
Bitcoin.
guy that's backed by the US state. Like, are we just talking about state actors now? Come on, guys. I thought it was a Bitcoin show.
He's the best cheerleader
You're
we've got.
talking Binance, yeah. I think that absolutely. I think Binance will, whatever China wants done with Binance will be done.
Who's better for Bitcoin, Sailor or CZ?
Hmm.
I'm gonna
That's a hard question.
Sailor,
too.
probably, because
Yeah, if you had to pick one, I guess. CIA versus CCP. You know, it's
So I was told by somebody who supposedly knows him personally, who knew him before MicroStrategy, that we're all just paranoid and he's not really a spook. And so I'm just
It's
saying.
fine, bro.
That's
Yeah,
And then
dude,
CEOs
it's fine.
become billionaires and intertwined with the state. He sells business intelligence software.
Who heard of MicroStrategy before Bitcoin?
He's based in Langley. He's
Yeah,
based
they're
in
like in Virginia.
like they're literally like right there. But I mean, maybe maybe it's a coincidence.
And no one knows what they really do, kind of generally. You know, it's all
software.
He's just a fan of the region, you know.
Software.
I thought Chaff
beautiful
was
there.
CEO of Micro Penis
Nice
Strategy.
place to park your yacht.
Where?
Swear to God, we're just surrounded. We're absolutely surrounded. Anyways, guys, let us know what you think. Put it in the comments. That wraps up REKT. And we are moving on to, that's right, our favorite. This is like the saving grace because all we've done is depress you. We are moving on over to the Hopium.
Hopium.
Up next, we have the Hopium, sponsored by Represent Art, a clothing brand based out on the west coast of the United States. They make some incredible apparel, like the item you see I'm wearing. This is actually a limited edition. You can't buy this, but if you want to buy something nearly as cool, if you head on over to representltd.com and use the code PlebUnderground, you can get a discount on all of the goodies. Once again, that's representltd.com. Okay, guys, so one story on Hopium this week. Number go up, basically, right? And yeah, that's it. And it's so significant, apparently, that now we have fiat bros, mainstream fiat finance memeing us when you get a pump. So we've got a Van Eck, who are a fiat wanker
Pepe.
institutional thing. Some bankers, some people that want to take custody of your funds rather than actually you hold it yourself. ETF people are now memeing us with Pepe's, and they say GM. I say GM back to them, and I also say GFY.
So Walton, we have a very rare occasion here. We've got Triple Elite Meme Crew with us. Guys, what do you guys think of this? How did Van Eck do? It's a good meme? Shit meme? What do you think? So what are your thoughts, Mars?
All right.
Good?
Rojan, go, bro.
All right, man. Okay, so this is what's going on here, right? They've co-opted the Pepe. Pepe was a white supremacist symbol, remember? First of all, Pepe was just Pepe, from what I remember. And then it became a white supremacist symbol, right? So you couldn't touch Pepe if you're a corporation.
But
now
someone said it was an alt-right symbol the other day.
Yeah.
I just heard them and thought they said an all-right symbol. I'm like, yeah, I think Pepe's all right, yeah.
It's all right.
He's all right.
And so now you see that
now he's
Pepe
okay again?
is okay, obviously, in certain sects, and maybe they probably had these meetings. You can imagine a boardroom full of people having different versions of this meme with different Pepes, having like this discussion about, well, is this a racist Pepe or is this a Pepe that will be?
Did they hire multiple ad agencies to choose the Pepe? Like, how did it go?
Yes, they probably spent millions of dollars on this campaign. You know what I mean? They like workshopped it. There's like a structure. There's a head of social media and there's a manager and there's so this is what they arrived at. This is what they all agreed to, and they're like, all right. So I feel like this is indicative of where the meme war is going. Before I was saying, memes are bullshit or whatever, but there's also a serious component of memeing, as you can tell from the 2016 election and what happened with Pepe, right? Like the fucking power structure of this country was like, this frog is a racist symbol, like, right? Like it actually entered the collective consciousness. So now the meme war looks like it's going to be the corporate front, right? It's probably going to be the media front. It's going to be on all fronts now. This meme war coming up. It's going to coincide with the halving. It's going to coincide with the election. It's coming. And this, to me, is just more evidence of that.
Yes.
Yeah, this is their distillation of their analysis of memeing in the space, and it's kind of it's a mediocre meme, and not as hashtag would say, it's not very. Where's your original content?
Yeah, this is like meme by committee.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. But it's funny because Rojan, I think you gave me the title for this episode, the $1 million Pepe campaign you didn't see coming. As you were saying that, I'm like, damn. I'm like, that's a good title for this episode.
Also, if you've ever seen a
Nice.
Pepe, to me this is the most spook-looking Pepe ever. It's like
Right?
this looks like an FBI person, like organizing
It's the
like
blue and white.
like a bust or something. This and it's appropriate, right? Because what are ETFs? ETFs are a state attack on Bitcoin, right? It's a custodial attack on Bitcoin, and so of course you have Fed Pepe coordinating.
Yeah, the blue and white color scheme, the triangle, Illuminati triangles in his for pupils. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
you noticed
this
that too?
strange occult symbology going on. You know, the whole
But
thing
isn't
is just
three
like it's
dots the
try
rebel
hard.
symbol or something?
You notice his
God, I know.
hands are like lizard hands, right? Even though I know he's a
Yeah,
frog,
yeah,
but he
yeah.
doesn't
The
have frog
GM
fingers.
is also
He's
in like a
lizard.
military font. which
Mm-hmm.
is
Yep.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's
nice.
interesting. So,
Hmm.
but
Yeah,
let's,
it's-
but Walton, let's take a look here because Nick's comment though, right? This bull market is going to hit different. What do you guys? Because I have to admit, I do think this bull market is going to hit different. I've mentioned this a few times that I personally believe that these guys, and when I say these guys, I'm talking about the legacy banking system, the legacy institution, investing machine. I think that this is a great excuse, right, to essentially make the biggest bubble in history, for real, because they've witnessed quote unquote crypto's potential. Okay, it's not even about Bitcoin. It's all about all the fake crap that they can sell and market and just make a huge bubble out of it. So I do think, to Nick's point, regardless of the ETF, I do think this bull market hits different. Could be wrong though. What are you guys' thoughts? Rojan.
Yes.
Or here, Mars, go first.
Yeah, I'll go. Yes, it could. It might not. I'm really bad at like predicting things like that. But if there's an ETF that's live, I prefer to look at it more over like the next. I know people really want this thing to happen like next year, but like the next 2-3 years, man, are just gonna be. We just came through a 2-year bear market. Like that's not that long. Blink our eyes. 2 years of a live ETF. That's exciting. It's very exciting.
Yeah, very interesting take. Rojan, what are your thoughts on this?
Will the next bull market hit different? I mean,
Different.
it's hard to say because that's like asking me, will this next hit of crack hit different? Right? Like this, that's my crack dealer. That's my crack dealer giving me like, hey, I got some new crack. And trust me, this is
Better
gonna
than the
hit
old
different
crack.
from that
I feel
last
that's
crack.
a
Yeah.
bad example, because surely the crack never hits as good, and never like it's like you never get like good crack. I don't know, I'm running crack, but like you know what I mean? Like surely it's
There
just
is
like
good crack and
crack's a
bad
shit
crack.
good. It's just like it's
Yeah,
never
there's
gonna hit
bad
the same
crack, bro.
again.
There's bad crack. I know.
Yeah.
Tell ya.
There's bad crack, and you'd be like, man, this crack does hit different. It's
Yeah.
bad, right? Like,
Gotta
yeah.
get your
So,
good crack.
yeah, just like Marta's saying, we can't predict the future. I mean, sure, if the institutional players come in, more money comes in, it's all gonna hit different, right? But I feel like every bull market is preceded by some kind of crazy deflationary event, some kind of crazy crash that's going to happen, right? Or everything goes haywire. The pension funds are going kaput, like whatever the fuck it is. And they're like, oh shit, we need to turn on the spigot. And they just start printing money like crazy, right? And then all this liquidity comes gushing back. And I think it's going to hit different because they have to pump more money than they have before every time, right?
And that's exactly the point.
It's going to hit different in the sense that we're going to get a much larger dose. We're sort of like a junkie who's gotten
A much larger
tolerant.
dose in what numbers though? In fiat numbers, right? And so is
Yes, exactly. And then so guess what? Bitcoiners are going to keep stacking. That money is going to get piled into assets. I mean, that's the game, isn't it? I mean, that's the Cantillon effect, right? Those guys next to the money printer are basically just shoveling that into assets, probably Bitcoin.
There's two moves. It's either the money printer's on and rates are low, which pumps assets and creates more wealth divide, but it also supplies jobs. But then what you have is then you have inflation, and so then what they do is they then raise the rates and turn off the money printer, and then people lose their jobs and die.
Yeah, you know, they got it all under
Pretty
control.
grim ending, Walton. That's
Cyclical.
what
Yeah,
we
I
need
know,
to
right?
hope
Don't
we
get
are.
a job, build a business,
Redistribution
build a
of
family,
wealth into the hands of
and
few.
buy Bitcoin. And
So,
it's pretty much it. Like, you know, if you need to build your own Hopium, guys, like, stop relying on this, you know, the section of the show to like give you Hopium. Like, you need to.
All right, so apparently
build
we're
your
not.
own.
If they try
we're-
and use the last bull run as like a use case or like a test, like they're using NFTs and things like that is like you know, is like building their pitch deck as to, you know, or as their investor deck as to why people should invest in this next bull run coming up. I'm kind of hard pressed to find what kind of functionality and use case they're going to find in the shitcoin realm that's going to actually help that. I don't think there's much. So it's going to be, they're going to have, they will, I mean, I feel like they'll have to lean harder on Bitcoin because it's actually something that they can actually work with, especially if it's the ETF, right? Or whatever, they can make their fees and whatnot.
There seems to be no shortage of regarded narratives that get people to pile into shitcoins. So I don't, you know, I definitely don't fault the legacy system for being able to come up with one imaginative narrative after another. So I think that there won't be. I mean, look, it's money for free, right? It's money for free for vaporware, stuff that isn't needed. You
I
know,
think it's going to be smarter money this time, though. You know, I think that they're going to. They're not going to go for those lesser scams. It's going to be more like the AI stuff. They're going to attach themselves to like Ben Grotzel and all these shitcoin projects that are part of Singularity and all these other things that are, you know, people with money will resonate with that and go hard into it because they'll look at it as a new sector in technology that they can sink their teeth into.
trend investing, like Kathy Wood bullshit. Like, we are gonna hyper focus on AI, hydro energy. You know, they're gonna do that bullshit. They'll focus on topics. I agree.
And here's the other thing, like, you know, we've all heard these guys and seen them on Twitter, these crypto traders who've gotten pretty successful over the last few cycles or whatever, and they think they're hot shit, right? They think they know their stuff, but they really haven't been playing against the fucking big boys. You know what I'm saying? And if these guys are coming into the space, they're coming to fucking take them. You know what I mean? This is like playing poker with champion, like the World Series of poker guys are starting to come to the like smaller tables now, right? And being like, all right, well, let's see. And these guys are going to get taken for everything because these institutional players have the fucking capital to basically outtrade everybody, just fucking move markets. We're gonna do, you know what I mean? Like more and more guys are gonna get wrecked because they've probably gained a lot of confidence over the past couple of cycles. Thinking they can probably, you know, outwit the market or whatever, and they're gonna get wrecked.
Liquidating shitcoin pools.
Oh,
you know, those like all those shitcoin pools that existed, they would just come in and sweep them.
As
Jay-Z
we can
do
said,
more of
New
this in
York
the
is the
future.
city where they murder for capital.
Indeed.
But going back to Mars's point here before we wrapped up the Hopium, you know, going back to Mars's point, the AI stuff, like I've covered actually a few AI grifts with shitcoins, and it's pretty remarkable because, as you guys know, right, there's no reason to purchase any kind of token in order to power AI, to use AI. You could download a version of ChatGPT for free, and you never need to use some shitcoin. So if there's any noobs that are actually listening to this episode, you don't need a shitcoin, no matter how much marketing they throw at you in the next few years. No shitcoin is going to power artificial intelligence. It's just not how it works.
And I'll end cap that, Mr. Phil, and say that Bitcoiners don't need a Bitcoin engineer, ChatGPT, Alex Fedsky, you LARPer, bro. You're not building a Bitcoin ChatGPT, bro. Get off it. You're a joke.
Hey, Mars, I know you're already lying on the floor, but can you go a little bit lower so that he can hear you properly?
Bro. You're like 5'4", because I want to get on his level. That's why I'm on the ground.
Yeah, I'm just saying a little bit lower, a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Mars is actually looking for a gold vault right now, so he's at an undisclosed location.
He's looking for Alex Stancic. He's looking for the gold. Where's the gold at, Alex?
Where's the gold, Alex? And why did you ignore 50 people who lost everything for a year?
Where's the gold, Alex?
Why do all
Guys?
gold shills look the same? I swear, like him and British Hodl look super similar as well. Like
It's
is
so
it
funny,
weird,
bro.
like-
right?
Dude, okay, so Stanchik, like his gold days, he's in a black suit with a red, he's got his like red tie, he's like at an angle, he's got like a power stance and never really smiles. And then he comes over here and he looks totally different. What a fucking clown.
So unfortunately, that brings up the grifting that goes on and the type of people, right, that end up doing this. So yeah. This was supposed to be Hopium.
No, but it's a point about why you should always consider who's selling you Hopium. Because there was a recent thing where it's like, there's 10 people predicting prices, and 9 out of the 10 of the people predicting prices own equity in major exchanges. Like, well, then again, it's about the incentives. If you got the people pumping the Hopium, if they make money on you buying Bitcoin, whether Bitcoin does well or not, consider, like, you see what I mean? It's like, you need to evaluate the incentives of the people that are pushing certain narratives, especially in Bitcoin, not just in the mainstream world, right? This is what we talk about. There is pleb media and there is corporate Bitcoin, and corporate Bitcoin want to steer narratives because they have incentives that don't necessarily align with yours. They don't necessarily align with Bitcoin's.
And they're not known. That's the big thing with TEM's perspective. That's the one people are. If I can maybe say 30 seconds on this, and it's this. I think most people think TEM is trying to judge behavior as acceptable or unacceptable, or judge people as good or bad. That's not what we're doing. We're identifying what is obviously a hidden motive and a hidden incentive through their behavior, and we're calling them out on it. And we get to call them out, or we want to call them out, until they actually address it. And most times they never do. And that's why we don't shut up about people. So it's really about that hidden motive, that hidden freaking motive.
No, I appreciate you explaining that. Oh, sorry, Rojan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Look, you want some Hopium? Bitcoin is Hopium. Bitcoin is the Hopium. There's no other Hopium. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. And to me, Bitcoin represents opting out of the system, a parallel system, just like TEM in a way is a parallel system, right, to what you might consider the Bitcoin community or whatever. You like you will never
Bitcoin social layer.
We will never win by trying to be part of their system, or get co-opted by them, or us try to co-opt them, or fight them directly. It's like we're building a parallel system. It's sort of like we're building a parallel culture, right? We're kind of just building, and a lot of that, the only way that can occur is if the people don't want anything to do with the old system. Right. Yeah. So if you, that's why TEM, we don't really want anything. We don't really want like Bitcoin jobs or whatever. Like, we don't want anything. So we end up just saying whatever the fuck we want and become very unpopular. Right. Like, but that's what people need to do. They just have to like not want to be part of that, and Bitcoin is, to me, Bitcoin is just one of the many points of evidence in life that like it's possible to build a parallel society. Right. And just get out of this one.
Individuality is not dead. And guys, that wraps up the Hopium. And we're going to move it on over to, that's right, it's that time of the month, the BtcPayServer update. So for BtcPayServer this month, Nicolas Dorier last week checked in version 1.11.7. And let's take a look. For the people who don't know what BtcPayServer is, right? It is a full implementation of Bitcoin, right? You can, if you're a business, you can use it as a as a point of sale system. But also, if you're just if you're a Bitcoin user and you want to have a node, well, guess what? BtcPayServer acts as a full node where you can send and receive Bitcoin. Anyways, what do we got? The new features, they've got a pull payment, and they've also added some feature set for deleting users by email. I guess apparently that was a request. And it looks like they've got an update to the point of sale system for some missing checkout settings. So guys, BtcPayServer is a open source project that lives and breathes from donations. So if you're going to donate to a project in the Bitcoin space, why not look at BtcPayServer. It's a real project by Bitcoiners for Bitcoiners. It's completely open source, and these guys are doing a really great job.
Right, like as BtcPayServer remind us every single month, bugs are for fixing, not for eating.
That's right. That's right. And guys, on that note, that wraps up this awesome episode of Pleb Underground. TEM, thank you very much for joining us. Guys, don't forget, like and subscribe. Help us grow the channel. And of course, check us out on our audio-only platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. If you want to stream us sats, check us out on fountain.fm. You can stream us sats through Breeze. All right, Walton, how do we wrap this one up?
Fuckshitcoins.com. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you next week.
Hey, I had just one more thing I wanted to add to this. We're in talks with David Bailey about doing the Bitcoin Fight Club, which is Bit Fight Club at Twitter. So we might actually, if everything can line up with our values, we might actually do it. So we will be encouraging some MMA fighting between the people in Bitcoin and shitcoin. Like we want to really expand it out as much as we can. And if we don't work with them, we'll probably work on doing it ourselves during the Nashville conference. So I just want to throw that out there.
Very cool. Very cool.
Sign the waiver.
Sign the waiver. Hashtag sign the waiver.
All right, guys. Catch you next week.
More toxic than the most toxic Bitcoin maxi ever.